Hello my friends, welcome to the Armory. It's January and we're stuck inside again, minus 12 today. This is my glove and it's a very good glove. It has cordovan on it, very hard leather, so that it doesn't dig into my fingers. Anyhow, it has started to come undone here, so I'm just going to take a little bit of crazy glue and put in there. And then just press it until it dries and it'll be great. I'll just stick my finger in there. Anyhow, while I'm doing that, I had a side thought. It's about soap, dish soap. And I was wondering to what effect dish soap has on our bodies and what diseases possibly it could carry. Now, this is what I'm talking about. It's pretty good. If we took a sink full of water and we took a drop of dish soap and put into that water, you ever notice how the surface tension breaks and you see everything move away from that drop? That's where the soap has broke the surface tension of the water. Another thing about soap, dish soap, is that if you have a dish with grease on it and you put the soapy water on there, it cuts it right off and you can have it squeaky clean. Now you might think that's good, but this is what I'm thinking. Our bodies are mainly water. So anything that cuts the surface tension of the water in the bowl will cut the surface tension of the water in your body. Another thing is that what of us that is not water is mostly fat. Anything that will cut the fat off a dish will cut the fat in your body. Now I've seen ads on TV where, the lady's got the dish and she's saying, oh, see these little spots? Well, if you use our soap, you won't see spots. In other words, when you let a dish particularly air dry, but just dry, there is a small amount of residual soap left there. And when you reconstitute it by pouring in your Pepsi and having a drink, you're dissolving that soap and you're drinking that tiny little amount. And everything counts in small amounts. So what I'm thinking is, we are using dish soap, often not wiping it off, but even if we wipe it off, there is a small amount of residual soap left there. And if we are drinking it, and some people probably use a lot, and they probably don't wipe the dishes very often. They just let them air dry. Over the years, how much effect is that grease cutting, water cutting element have to do with disease? If the water is floating little tiny particles of dirt out of our body, and that's what it does, filters it out through our kidneys. If that's what's going on, is the soap cutting the surface tension so that some of these particles aren't brought out of the body, remain in the body, and cause disease eventually? It's a thought. It's a thought. It's something that I don't think anybody else has ever talked to about, so I like to be an original thinker, and I'm putting this thought forward. Now, to avoid this, if you simply don't let your plates get dirty or stay dirty and get hard, and you take them after you've eaten and go and just get the regular hot water coming out of your tap. Hot water is really the best. It will kill. Just rinse them off with the hot water, wipe it off, no soap, perfectly clean. In Africa, the Bedouin, they will wash their dishes with sand. It doesn't have to be soap and water, as long as it's clean. Anyhow, there's a little side thought about soap that I thought I'd tell you just to get you thinking. Okay, have fun. I'll be back in a minute. Oh, hello, my friends. Just hanging out here on a beautiful winter's day, hanging out with my right hand man here. There's a lot of controversy in this world about different things. One of them is race. And I did have a thought about race. I thought, we're on a ship, and the ship gets torpedoed. We have to jump overboard. We put on the cork. We're floating around in the water. We're going to die. It's real cold. And then we see a lifeboat coming off in the distance. And as the boat gets closer, we know we're going to live. We're going to live. We're not going to freeze to death in that water. Boat gets closer. And then an arm reaches down to pull us to safety. Would we look up and say, what color is that arm? Or would we just reach out and grab that arm and be saved? That was my little story about racism. Anyhow, you guys have some fun. I'll talk to you later. Good evening, my friends. On behalf of good King Edward and the Armory, welcome aboard. This evening, I've been invited by our good King to teach you a very important and basic principle. I call it being the cannon, or sometimes aiming with your back foot. Being the cannon means just that. We are in the artillery, and we are going to learn to shoot like a cannon. Now, what I have to tell you is that if there was a ship on the horizon and there was a cannon and the barrel was pointed like that, nobody bends the barrel so that it points at the ship. The cannon is actually cranked around on its base. Crank, 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 crank. And then it's shot. Okay? So we have to imagine our bodies as being the cannon. The upper part of the body is the barrel. It should not bend. Now what I find in principle is any of this canting, changing your cant, raising, lowering your elbow, bending the knee, all these kinds of things are actually ways of lining up to the target, but always with a degree of torquing, twisting. Torquing is the enemy of accuracy. So what we want to do is to become the cannon. To become the cannon, we basically have an upper body all stretched out and relaxed, and we do not point at the target. We simply stretch out and relax and look along the arrow and see where it's pointing. We do not do that. We just see where it's pointing. And then we use the bottom of the body. Now, you can swivel at the waist without moving your arms, but in all honesty, it's not quite as accurate as bringing your back foot around, cranking the base of the cannon around. So if you lift up your back foot and just simply bring it around, it will pivot on the front leg and you'll be on, directly on, okay? So that's a very important principle. I call it being the cannon. So you draw out as strong as you can and relax. You have to learn to relax. And wherever your body points is where it wants to point without torquing. Now we lift up the back foot and bring that around just like a cannon barrel onto the ship. Okay? So that's a very, very important thing to do. The other thing that you can do once you get onto that is simply sort of put your back foot around already. And when you draw, it may not be perfect, but it's very easy to adjust that little tiny bit. Even if you draw and it appears to be perfectly lined up, still lift up your back foot and just put it down. I have found that even if it looks like it's perfectly lined up, there may be torquing still in the body because of the draw. Once you lift up that back foot and plant it once again, it will take all that torquing out of the way. Anyhow, I'd say that that's just about as important a thing as I've ever told you. Aim with your back foot, okay? Let it point wherever it wants to. Now crank the cannon around. Okay, now I've told you that enough times. Think it over and go and have some fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye now. Okay, my friends. Here we are in the armory discussing archery. I'm going to tell you something because I can't show this to you. I have to tell you, you have to listen and try to understand what I'm saying and the importance of it. There are many steps to shooting a bow. There is your stance, there's your lower body, your knee, your waist, just holding it on. There's your upper body, there's all these parts. Push it on, draw it back, relax, step after step. The final step, and it's extremely important, is the feeling in your fingers, in your fingertips. The reason for this is the last thing that's done is letting go. Your elbow's back before you let go. You're relaxing your arm before you let go. You're holding it on before you let go. The final step, it's critical, is that letting go. And it's all done with the fingertips. Now, let me describe what I feel. So I'm looking at the target, I've drawn back, I've allowed my arm to relax, it's just hanging, I've moved my foot, I'm all lined up, I'm ready to shoot. Now, I can feel that my arm is hanging, first of all, and it's relaxed. I can feel the pressure on my elbow. That disappears. I can feel the pressure in my hand. I can feel the pressure here. When I don't feel it here anymore, I feel it here. Finally, I actually feel the pressure of the string right in that little groove on my gloves. I feel it there. I do not feel it any longer in the elbow or the forearm or the back of the hand or the first part of the fingers. I feel it here. When I feel it there, I can relax my fingers. Often the arrow is not directly pointing at the target. When you're looking along that arrow and you're all relaxed, you'll see it's not really exactly on. What I do is I'll relax my fingers until it is on. I don't keep relaxing, just enough that I see it goes on. Now at this point, I'm all lined up. That's where the arrow wants to go. But it won't go there if I just let go. It just won't go there if I just let go. So I have to be holding, this bow, for instance, is 43 pounds. 43 pounds. So the way it has to work is the arrow's lined up, and I'm holding 45 pounds, not 43, 45. I can feel the muscles in my hand and my fingers. I don't have to move my fingers and let it creep. I can keep it there, but I can feel the muscles relax to 44.5 pounds. I can just keep it there. I feel the muscles relax to 44. Get it? They haven't moved. They're not creeping forward. They're just relaxing. 43.5. It's all lined up. It's just the tension in my hand is getting less. You have to have supreme finger control. And then it gets down to 43. That's all. That's how gentle it is. You cannot let go. Knock your head right off, right? You know? You can't do that. So that's something that I'm trying to get across to you. Let that hand relax. Feel the pressure all there. Let it go straight. And just relax the hand, relax the hand, relax the hand. It's as gentle as that, but if you can do that, it will really be a big deal, because I'm telling you, I've shot, 500,000 or more shots at least, and if I don't do that, no matter how lined up it is, if I jerk a little bit, it's just off a little bit. It's a very deft touch. Anyhow, think it over, guys, and go have some fun. Take care. Okay, my friends, so we're going to discuss theory now, and there's a lot of ways to miss, and the upper body can certainly be a cause of missing. It's almost impossible for a human being to pull their arms all the way back without causing some torquing. It's just impossible, because there's movement involved. So because of that, we can easily throw our shots off. Now, I've shown you about being the cannon. The cannon is a very good way of shooting, where you're just all stretched out and then you just crank your back foot around until you're lined up. You see, we're right-handed. If we're right-handed, the arrow goes on an angle. So it goes on an angle like that. So the back foot will bring it around, okay? So we've gone through that idea of allowing it to point wherever it wants, and then we do not move the upper body. We simply rotate the cannon barrel around and shoot. Again, that's to remove any torquing. So we allow it to point where it's going to point. We never start doing the aim by altering the upper body. We do not simply roll the wrist on. It's very easy to make it look straight, and it never shoots straight. You cannot just roll the elbow down until it goes straight. You can't just roll the wrist on until it goes straight, and you cannot pull without putting torquing in those arms. It has to be like the cannon, stretch wherever it wants to point, and now the upper body comes on. Now, if that's the case, and the cannon barrel idea is the least torquing way of shooting, what we can do now is try to find what I call the optimum line. And that's done by experimenting. Now, the optimum line is when you put the cannon barrel up, it goes on pretty well by itself. So, what I have found by experimenting in my own case is, if I hold my shoulders exactly 180 degrees to the target, you're the target, right? Shoulders 180 degrees, and my feet are also The heels are about 4 inches apart, but the heels, both heels are on that 180-degree angle. So in other words, I'm standing looking at 90 degrees in a pretty relaxed way to the target, okay? Now, when I turn my body on and I put it up, it will pretty well start to go on that angle. Okay? So what I have found is an angle or a way of standing that allows me to get on the line without having to, you know, do that or do this kind of stuff, right? If I stand, personally, if I stand this way and I simply look at the target, when I come back, it's right there. So for me, a foot position like this gives me the optimum line. The optimum line is the line in which you're not torquing. You cannot pull back without twisting. So if you can find a position, and again, mine is simple, 180 degrees, I'm facing 90 degrees, my feet are just parallel also to the target on the line, and it will automatically, as I turn, it will go there. Anyhow, that's the optimum line, and that's what I'm telling you about. So if you can get the idea of just drawing that bow back, not even aiming and letting go, you'll see it shoot straight the way it wants to shoot, not the way you want it to shoot. Now you're going to learn that if you can get it to point wherever it wants to point and you can adjust your feet, you'll get onto the line. Now we're going to find a way in which you can stand in this. Again, mine is just standing at 180 to the target and looking 90 degrees to the target, and when I turn around and my arrow is on the right, but when it comes back it will be straight. That's the least amount of torquing I can do. Then I can do my final correction, you know, by relaxing my fingers and just lining it up that last little tiny bit. But that works very good for me. So that's what I'm sharing with you, is the optimum line. The idea of letting the bow shoot where it wants to shoot. The idea of learning to move your feet around so that it's shooting without any torquing. You'll find that that starts to go pretty straight. And finally, finding a way in which you can stand that when you put it up, it's automatically on that optimum line. Anyhow, that's about it for today. I'm hoping that the weather gets better pretty soon. I get out of here. We'll go out and do some of this in the field and have a good time. I think you'll like it. Anyhow, I'll talk to you later. Bye now. Okay, my friends, so there's something that's important. It's never talked about, so I think it's time that I clue you in about this, let you become aware of this fact. And that is something that I call the nod, or the cat nod. And the reason I call it that is, you know, when a cat is going to jump up at something, it kind of bobs its head up and down. It's kind of lining the thing up, eh? You've seen it. And then they'll jump. Well, this is the same idea as the cat nodding its head. Now, I want you to be looking along the arrow. Okay, so you have to be looking along the arrow, no matter how you get into it. Move your foot, bend your knee, whatever, but be looking along that arrow. Now, even though you think you're looking along the arrow, I would suggest that hundreds of thousands of times I was not looking along the arrow. It appears straight. It's an optical illusion, and you're not able to concentrate to that nth degree. Anyhow, if you get yourself into a position where you're looking along the arrow, if you simply do that, you'll find it's so much easier. If you draw and you just get back there, you'll likely be off by a few degrees. Right now I can see that that's off to my left or your right. But if you simply, you get to line that arrow up a lot better. So come back, do the nod, do the cat, and it will certainly help you out. It will help you to line up that arrow. It's just simply because instead of having one angle to look at, you've got two angles to look at, and it just helps to line it up. It helps an awful lot. So even though that seems like a very small matter, it's not a small matter. Look along the arrow, not whatever you're doing. Do the cat, get it nicely lined up, and let her go. Anyhow, enough of that for now, but it's important. Have fun. Talk to you later. Yeah, I knew a guy says to me, Gare, I'm getting old. Kind of worried. I says, hey John, don't worry about getting old. You won't be old for long. That's just a little Viking joke. You know, they say that those Vikings, they kind of were fatalistic. Anyhow, you guys go have some fun. Talk to you later.